Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 26th of August of 2025. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. Now we can say that the special military operation enters the new stage, the new phase of the special military operation. We are talking about kill zone stage. So what is kill zone? You know that since the beginning of the special military operation, most of the mappers were using different types of areas, let's say territories under control of the armed forces of Ukraine. So for example, if you take a look at our map, this territory is colored with yellow. We have territories under control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So some mappers use, let's say, one color, other mappers use another color. We use red color for territories that are under control of the Russian forces. And of course, we have the gray zones, and we have contested areas. So the territories which we don't know for sure whether these territories are under control of the armed forces of Ukraine or under control of the Russian Federation. When talking about our map, we use, let's say, gray color or white color for these territories. But now more and more sources, mainly more and more soldiers who has their own Telegram channels or other different channels or X channels, they start using these two words, kill zone. So what is kill zone? Kill zone is the situation when Ukrainians and both Ukrainians and Russians using FPV drone operators and using FPV drones can create a territory probably with lengths of varies from 5 till 10 kilometers that neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians can enter. So this is the territory that is in the complete control of FPV drones, and this is the territory where you can find no trenches, fortifications or strongholds. Or this is the territory where there used to be trenches, strongholds and fortifications, but most likely they were destroyed as a result of artillery strikes or as a result of public clashes of previous days. And if you enter this territory, it doesn't matter whether you're a Russian soldier or whether you're a Ukrainian soldier. If you enter this territory, most likely you will be destroyed or attacked by FPV drones with zero chances to survive. And since the beginning of the special military operation, for example, the Ukrainians managed to create several kill zones. So one of the kill zones is located to the south of the city of Orekhov. So this is the territory, let's say, along this yellow line. And everything that enters this yellow line will be destroyed automatically by Ukrainian FPV drone and FPV drone operators. And this is the reason why the Russians are not attacking the city of Orekhov from, let's say, south or let's say from the southeast, because they understand if they do this, most likely they will suffer huge losses, and most likely several waves of this offensive operation will be destroyed completely, and maybe the third or fourth wave of offensive operation will get some results. But obviously this is not something that soldiers on the ground will please to see. Another kill zone area was created around the settlement by the name of Gulay Pole. So currently this is the kill zone we are talking about. Everything that enters this kill zone would be destroyed immediately. Another kill zone was created around the settlement of Pokrovskaya. And as you can see, this kill zone is very far from the line of combat contact. And this allows the Russians to advance further in the western direction and to take more and more territories under complete control. And we see that the Ukrainians show no resistance in this area. They try to counterattack, we will discuss this, but sometimes, usually it doesn't help. Another kill zone was created around the settlement by the name of Novopavlovka. Everything that enters this, let's say, square, this pocket, would be destroyed by FPV drone and FPV drone operators of the armed forces of Ukraine immediately. Another kill zone was created around the city of Pokrovsk, but the situation here a little bit different. The thing is that the Russian kill zone is much more powerful than Ukrainian kill zone. And when talking about this area, we can say that Russian kill zone is dominating in this direction, and this allows the Russians to improve their positions from day to day. But as for the previous 24 hours, we haven't received almost anything about the additional progress on the ground, neither from the Russian nor from the Ukrainian side. The next kill zone is the kill zone around the settlement by the name of Konstantinovka. So, and as you can see, we see almost the same radius of this kill zone from any direction, either from both from the southern, from the western, or from the eastern direction. If anything enters this territory, most likely this unit would be destroyed immediately by Ukrainian FPV drone operators. The next kill zone created by Ukrainians is the area around the settlement of Siversk. So, and as you can see, we have almost the same radius from the north, from the south, and from the east. So this is the kill zone, the territory that if you enter this territory, most likely and 100% chances that you would be destroyed or attacked by Ukrainian FPV drone and FPV drone operator. But not every single territory can be considered as a kill zone. First of all, we need to have a lot of FPV drones, a lot of FPV drone operators, and the most important factor, you need to have stronghold. You need to have a city, you need to have a dense network of fortifications that you can use not just for probably FPV drone operators or to store for, let's say, FPV drones, but you also need this territory, this stronghold for different type and kind of equipment. Different communication equipment, different satellite, different Starlinks equipment, and many other different equipment that you can use to improve your signal and to improve your FPV drone, both FPV drones and FPV drone operators. And usually the cities like Orechov, Guляй-Поле, Pokrovsk, Novopavlovka, Pokrovsk can serve for these purposes. So, and we are entering the situation with a gap between positions of the armed forces of Ukraine and the Russian Federation that can be probably up to 10 kilometers. The territory that nobody can control, despite the fact that both the Russians and the Ukrainians can make some attacks with the purpose to establish flag and to show another video with flag that later different mappers will use this video as a video based on which you can adjust the map. But basically after this establishing of flag, you will retreat immediately without any chances to hold control over the territory. For example, the best example of kill zone that was established by both the Russians and the Ukrainians is the territory between two rivers, the river of Volcha and the river of Mokry Yaly. As you can see, according to this map, we see everything is simple. 50% of the territory is under complete Ukrainian control, Andreevka, Klitsova, Zelený Gai, probably some part of Tolstoy, and 50% of this territory under control of the Russian Federation. A part of Zelený Gai, the entire territory of Novokhatska, and the eastern part of Tolstoy. But telling the truth, when talking about this area, for example, this map describes better the situation on the ground, because most of the territories between these villages, including the villages themselves, are the territories inside of kill zone that was established both by the Russians and by the Ukrainians. And it doesn't matter who entered this territory, there are 100% chances that this unit will be destroyed immediately by both the Russian or Ukrainian FPV drone. So this is the best example of a kill zone that was created right now during the previous 2 or 3 weeks. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians have strongholds. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians have enough of drones, enough of equipment to attack each other, and nobody has enough of forces units to attack with the purpose to improve their positions, to get better positions, and to color territories either in the favor of Russian Federation or in the favor of Ukrainian side. But since the beginning of the special military operation, but more precisely since 2025, the Russians found probably a more or less reliable solution how to avoid these kill zones and how to bypass them. And the Russians started using infantry without vehicles. No tanks, no infantry fighting vehicles, no infantry carriers, just infantry. You have, let's say, 20 soldiers, and you will split these 20 soldiers into 10 groups of 2 soldiers in each one. And for example, if you attack using these tactics, this method, most likely Ukrainians, to stop your advance, gonna have to use also 10 FPV drone operators. Every single FPV drone operator for another group of soldiers. So this is the only way how you can stop progress of these, let's say, 20 soldiers. And very nice example we can see around the settlement by the name of Novomykhailovka. You know that Ukrainian sources reported that as a result of counteroffensive, they managed to restore control over the settlement of Novomikhailivka based on several videos. Many mappers adjusted their maps. But the thing is, and the problem is that yes, indeed, Ukrainians probably answered the settlement of Novomikhailivka, but the problem is that Ukrainians answered the settlement of Novomikhailivka, which is located inside of the kill zone established by the Russian forces. So they answered the village, but those units that answered the village were destroyed immediately because Ukrainians still refused to adapt to these new tactics. Ukrainians attacked the settlement of Novomikhailivka using just one armored vehicle and up to 20 soldiers on board. Maybe there were two waves of attacks, very difficult to understand, but they attacked the settlement just with one vehicle. They landed 20 soldiers almost in one point, which means that one FPV drone operator can destroy these soldiers immediately and automatically within 1 or 2 hours. And this is exactly what happened in the Novomikhailivka kill zone. Ukrainians entered there, but they were destroyed. But if Ukrainians, let's say, used the same 20 soldiers, but if they cut these 20 soldiers into 10 groups of 2 soldiers, most likely they would be able to take Novomikhailivka under control, to dig in deeper, and probably we will be able to color the entire village under complete control of the armored forces of Ukraine. But as for now, the Ukrainians, for some reason, decide to refuse adopting this technology and this military tactics and this military technology. But the Russians are using this because they understand that Ukrainians don't have enough of FPV drones operators to control the entire line of combat contact, and not just line of contact, but every single square kilometer. Another important thing that this stage of the special military operation can be the final one. I will explain to you why. The thing is that there might be a moment and a period of time during the special military operation, during this kill zone stage, when both the Russians and the Ukrainians will have millions of drones, and the most important, thousands of FPV drone operators, and significant number of stronghold cities and towns like Orekh, Gulay-Polya, where both the Russians and the Ukrainians will be able to install necessary equipment to improve their FPV drone skills. And from this very moment, when you have thousands of drones, thousands of millions of drones, thousands of FPV drone operators, you will be able to turn the entire line of combat contact into a kill zone, a very long kill zone, starting from the city of Kherson and ending in the vicinity of the city of Sumy. It's going to be a situation when it doesn't matter how many soldiers enters this kill zone, all of them will be destroyed immediately. And at several points of the front line, we already see the situation. So, as we discussed, there are several ways how to settle the conflict, meaning with military means, if Russians are able to force Ukrainians to accept the Russian terms and demands, or Ukrainians are able to, with military means, to restore control over the border of 1991, or with, let's say, negotiation means, when they will agree on something and Russia or Ukraine will accept demands of each other. And currently we see that there is the fourth way how to establish, how to settle the conflict in Ukraine. If the entire line of combat contact will turn into a kill zone. So when neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians are able to advance further due to the situation that soldiers that enter this kill zone would be destroyed immediately within several minutes. And currently we see that more and more territories, more and more, let's say, parts of the line of combat contact is turning into this kill zone area. So now let's discuss the situation on the ground. We see that the Russians are moving, but they're moving very slowly, and due to these kill zones as a part of these, let's say, tactics from Ukrainian side. During the previous 24 hours, we got lots of updates from the city of Kherson. As we discussed in the previous video, the Russians established complete control over the main line between the city of Kherson and the city of Nikolaevka. In this video, we can see how civilians were moving along the road, and they managed to film several vehicles that were destroyed by Russian FPV drone operators, which means that most likely those vehicles belong to armored forces of Ukraine. So this is very important because the Russians, due to well-fortified area on the Russian bank of the river of Dnieper, are trying right now to establish this kill zone. So which means that everything that enters this territory would be destroyed immediately and automatically. But to establish this kill zone and to have 100% chances that everything that enters this territory would be destroyed, the Russians need one improvement. They need to take the island, the southern micro-district of the city of Kherson, the micro-district by the name of Ostrov. And for example, today, pro-Russian resources published this video where we can see how another vehicle crossed the river of Dnipro, or not the river of Dnipro, but the river of Koshava, and the bridge was damaged during the previous attack with aviation, with bomb, and we can see a big hole in the central part of the bridge. So the Russians attacked the bridge in the past, there were several explosions, and as soon as the Russians destroyed the bridge, then they're gonna have chance to cross the river of Dnipro from their side and to establish complete control over this territory. You might say that the Russians will have no chances to probably hold these positions if Ukrainians counterattack and many other things, but as we discussed, this is not just a micro district, this is something like a citadel. And if Russians take under control this territory, the Russians first of all will be able to create another kill zone. A territory under control of FPV drone operators that will destroy everything that enters this territory. So this is the tactics. This is how exactly the Russians and most likely the Ukrainians are going to fight in the future, to establish a stronghold and then to develop a kill zone. Of course, Ukrainians can do the same, but once again, three factors: FPV drones, FPV drone operators, and of course, strongholds. If you have all these three things in your hands, then most likely you have better chances to create a kill zone. And who creates a kill zone? This will prevent other side to creation of their own kill zone, which is very important. As for the Zaporozhye direction, the Russians, as for now, have no chances to continue offensive operation in the direction of the city of Orekhov, because if they attack, they will enter kill zone. Ukrainians from Orekhov with FPV drones can destroy everything that will start moving in this direction. So that is why the Russians are advancing from the east in the western direction with the purpose to get the cities of Pokrovska and the settlement of Gulay Polya from the north and from the south. Ukrainians also have kill zones in this area, but still they are too far from this. The Russians can take all these villages, all these settlements without any problems, because the only thing that Ukrainians can do is to counterattack Russians with vehicles. With vehicles, this is the only way. They can't do this with FPV drone operators because basically they don't have enough of probably equipment and infrastructure for these purposes. So in this video we can see how Ukrainians counterattacked Russians. Most likely these two Bradleys crossed the settlement of Zaporizhzhia from the west in the eastern direction without being involved into close combat. They had another purpose, another task. They crossed the settlement of Vorona, and most likely they landed infantry somewhere here with the purpose to block Russians on the area of the settlement and then to clear the settlement by infantry with attacking the settlement from the west in the eastern direction. We believe that the village of Vorona would be retaken by Ukrainians in coming days. At the same time, the armored force of the Russian, due to complete absence of any kill zone, continue offensive operation in the direction of the settlement of Kamyshevacha. During the previous 24 hours, Ukrainians reported that the villages of Zaporozhye and the village of Novoyegorovka were taken by the armored force of the Russian Federation, and currently the settlement of Kamyshevacha is already encircled. And probably this is the reason why Ukrainians counterattack in Vorona, because if Ukrainians decide to retreat, most likely they will retreat through the village of Voronezh. So first of all, Ukrainians need to restore control over the village, otherwise Ukrainians have no chances for evacuation. So most likely the battle for Voronezh is a very important battle, which will allow the Russians from their side to keep the settlement of Kamyshevacha in cauldron, and Ukrainians by counterattacking will be able to restore main evacuation roads for the same settlement. As for the next direction, as we discussed, this is the best place that describes the kill zone area. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians concentrated lots of FPV drones, lots of units, and anything that enters this area, despite the fact whether you establish a flag with video, it doesn't matter anything, because in a minute or in an hour, the FPV drone operators of opposite team, opposite army can counterattack and to destroy everything you manage to create in this direction. So that is why we have probably one of the probably first kill zones that were created in 2025, where we can see the situation, let's say in online regime, we see the situation exactly between these two rivers, the river of Volcha under Ukraine control and the village of Mokre Yale under control of the armored force of the Russian Federation. When talking about the map, we see like territories under control of Ukraine and Russia, but when talking about the reality, these fields are the kill zone, which can be controlled by anybody, neither by the Russians nor by the Ukrainians. To take this territory under control, you need to bring lots of forces for the Russians and to begin to start everything from the beginning. To attack using small groups of soldiers in direction of Andreevka, Klitsova and Zelený Gai, but it doesn't mean that it will bring any results. As for Novopavlovka, the Russians managed to get the kill zone of Ukrainians in this area, and as you can see, they are not moving further. As for the city of Pokrovsk, during the previous 24 hours, lots of very important updates were recorded, but as you can see, we have no changes on the ground. The Russians managed to establish their own kill zone above the city of Pokrovsk. The Ukrainians are trying to do the same from their side, and now we can see the situation when there is a conflict of two kill zones, both from the Russian and from Ukrainian side. And the Russians are trying to cut logistic for the city of Pokrovsk. This can lead to probably reduction of number of FPV drones in the territory of agglomeration and the number of FPV drone operators, which is also very important. But at the same time, the Ukrainians have better stronghold positions that they can use to install different equipment to improve their FPV drones. The Russians at the same time have lots of territories around the city of Pokrovsk, which allows them to have the same. But the Russians have better positions. They have no problems with FPV drones, with FPV drone operators, and the most important, with strongholds. There are lots of towns and cities around the city of Pokrovsk. Furthermore, some territories of the Pokrovsk agglomeration are already under complete Russian control. That allows them also to have better positions to create additional kill zone. So basically, Ukrainians were caught into Russian kill zone in the city of Pokrovsk. And the only thing that saves Ukrainians from complete collapse is the significant number of strongholds and multi-storage buildings and basements that allows them to hide themselves and to survive under rain of Russian FPV drone attacks. At the same time, the armed forces of the Russian Federation, according to information we have during the previous 24 hours, continued their offensive operation in the direction of the city by the name of Mirnograd. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians improved their position significantly to the east of the city by taking under control lots of trenches and strongholds. So we're talking about this territory. This information was provided by neutral mappers and by pro-Russian resources. The main task of the Russians, of course, is to answer the city of Mirnograd. If Russians answer the city of Mirnograd, they will improve their kill zone positions. The Ukrainians will start suffering much more losses in comparison with previous days. It is very important for the Russians to answer the city, not to continue offensive operation deep inside of the agglomeration, but to improve their positions for equipment, for FPV drone operators that will be able to operate and attack Ukrainian positions much deeper in deep rear of the armed forces of Ukraine defense. As for the area of breakthrough, nothing special happened during the previous 24 hours. The most important updates are coming from the area of Dobropolye. The sources are saying that the Russians attacked the city of Dobropolye and villages and territories around with a significant number of aviation bombs. Ukrainians suffered huge losses. Mainly the Russians were attacking the temporary deployment point of engineer sapper units, warehouses with FPV drones and arms, and FPV drone operator bases. So this is the most important target for the Russians right now. The more bases of FPV drone operators they destroyed and warehouses, the less chances for the armed forces of Ukraine to create another kill zone. As for the city of Konstantinovka, the situation here the same. The Russians managed to get the Konstantinovka kill zone almost from every single direction, from the west, from the southwest, from the south, from the southeast, from the east, and from the northeast. So this yellow line is the border of Ukrainian kill zone. Everything that enters this territory would be destroyed immediately by the armed forces of Ukraine FPV drone operators. To probably reduce Ukrainian superiority in this, first of all, the Russians need to destroy bases, warehouses, and to establish complete control, FPV drone control, so another kill zone over the road between the settlement of Drushkovka and Konstantinovka. But as for this, the Russians are too far from this situation. So that is why the Russians prefer using tactics of destroying Ukrainian positions with FABs, trying to discover with intelligence Ukrainian warehouses, ammo depots. And for example, during the previous 24 hours, a record number of explosions was recorded in the western part of the city, in the area of these multi-storage buildings. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation around the city of Siversk, where the Russians also got the kill zone line. They can't move further in the western direction because if they answer this territory, they would be destroyed immediately. And the only way how the Russians can move invisible and stay, let's say, continue staying invisible for Ukraine FPV drones is the Serebryanka forest. And this is exactly what the Russians are doing. So the Serebryanka forest is the strategical position both for the Russians and for the Ukrainians. At the first stages of the special military operation, any forest was a very big pain for both the Russians and the Ukrainians. But now, any forest, first of all, is the best protection from FPV drones. FPV drones can attack deep inside of the forest. And when talking about clashes on the territory of the forest, we're talking about old-style warfare, when artillery systems, tanks, flamethrower systems, assault operation are still the main that's a tool that you can use to advance on the ground. And the Russians have no problems, as we know, with FPV, with artillery systems, flamethrower systems, aviation. So that is why the Russians were advancing significantly during the previous days. Furthermore, almost every single mapper and every single expert confirmed that the Russians during the previous days improved their positions significantly in Serebryanka forest, and the Ukrainians confirmed that they were completely defeated on the territory of the forest and they were forced to fall back further. Now the Russians will be able to get as close as possible to the settlement of Yampol and most likely to take this village under complete control, because the village borders with forest, which will allow the Russians to get as close as possible without any resistance. And if Russians take under control this territory, the Russians, as we discussed, as we've been discussing since the beginning of this video, will be able to create another additional kill zone to the west of the city of Siversk. Everything that enters this territory would be destroyed immediately by Russian FPV drone operators, which will lead to the situation when Ukrainians have no supply and no logistic to the city of Siversk, and it's going to be just a matter of time when the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back. Now the tactics, I believe you understand. The tactics is very simple. So to establish kill zone in probably in favorable position and not to allow anything to enter this kill zone. And with time, and other territories that depend on this kill zone in the past would probably exhaust, and Ukrainians or the Russians would be forced to fall back. But now we see that the Russians is the only side who is advancing right now, and they use these tactics. As for the Liman direction, the armored force of the Russian Federation finished the battle for the settlement of Kolodisi. And now we see that the Russians from the Liman direction also are about to get a kill zone, another kill zone. So this is approximately a kill zone of the city of Liman that was created by the Ukrainians. And as soon as the Russians get this kill zone, it will going to be very difficult for them to continue advancing further in the southern direction. And the only way to do this through the forests in the area of Drobusheva and through the forests in the vicinity of Yampol, where the Russians will be able to stay secured and invisible for Ukrainian FPV drones. As for the city of Kupiansk, the Russians managed to establish kill zone in this area a long time ago. And this is approximately a kill zone that was created by the Russians. Everything that enters this territory can be destroyed by the Russians without any problems and very fast. For example, today we got another video how Russians established kill zone along the river of Oskol. There are lots of kill zones along the river of Oskol where the Russians have probably tens of drones, and they probably operate and work in this area 24 hours, 7 days a week. Here we can see how Ukrainians were trying to cross the river of Oskol once again, but everything that entered this territory was immediately destroyed by Russian FPV drone operators. So this is the reality. The Russians established kill zone over the city of Kupiansk, and now Ukrainians during the previous days managed to reinforce this territory significantly, and now we're just watching how every single day, every single hour, the Ukrainians on the territory of the Kupiansk agglomeration are getting more and more exhausted. Ukrainians from their side need to establish their own kill zone over the settlements of Dvarechna, but most likely due to problems with fortifications and probably long-term stronghold positions, currently they can't do this. So this is the situation, and this is the stage we are entering, establishing a kill zone and then to exhaust this or that territory until your opponent is no longer able to hold this or that position, and then your opponent retreat and you take this territory under control, and then you need to start thinking where else you can establish another kill zone. So this is the special military operation of the stage we're entering in. This is a very long stage because sometimes it takes months, maybe weeks, maybe years to exhaust this or that territory. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.